35 years ago, my wife Linda and I wanted to begin a sustainable country home. We liked the Rocky Mountains, and so we chose that area. We looked around to find a secluded valley that a lot of people hadn't already farmed in, because we wanted virgin ground. And so we started here in northwestern Montana. I'm Jerry Wernick, and our purpose was to have a home that used all of the natural resources that came from the Creator to begin with, to work in harmony with nature rather than trying to overpower nature. And so we started out, we learned very fast in this valley. It's an alpine valley overlooking Glacier National Park, that we really didn't have a frost-free season. It can frost any month of the year. We usually get about 60 days in the middle of the summer. So we had an outside garden, a lot of things frosted off. Because of that, we started building greenhouses as well. We ended up with 4 different climates, really. This is one. This is our year-round greenhouse. And we learned very quickly that if you don't have a lot of thermal mass in a building like this, it overheats during the day and gets really cold at night. So we put in lots of stone, and we put in the pools. It was all done ourselves. We didn't hire anything done. We poured the concrete just with a gasoline mixer and lots of native stone. We never bought any stone, but we put it in, and that moderates the climate. So we have a huge fig tree, produces hundreds and hundreds of figs, 2 crops. Little olive tree here that's beginning and doing well. We have a little avocado here, a lemon tree up there. We have a plum and some early apricots. And then we use lots of room for flowers as well. We also use this as a winter garden. We grow a lot of greens outside, like parsley, Swiss chard, and kale, and green onions, and that sort of thing. And they go in all these beds in the fall, and then we have good greens all winter long. We also have an orchard greenhouse, which is about twice this size, that we can grow stone fruit like peaches, apricots, apples, and pears and that sort of thing. We have a big outside garden where we grow frost-hardy things mainly. We're also into keeping all our own seed as much as we can, and so we've learned which plants that you can grow and keep the seed and they'll grow true, with our tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, and all of that kind of produce as well.
Jerry, you're also operating a school here because you have a burden for young people learning the value of sustainability. Could you tell us a little bit about how they're involved?
Well, we wanted to have some sort of outreach after we got ourselves established as a family business, but also a ministry service to the people around. So we started a school. Linda and I were both teachers, had taught in other schools, and we found that a lot of young people wanted to come here. And they like the environment, they like mountain climbing and canoeing the rivers and rafting and all of that. And part of their school program was to have a practical work program so that they could see their classes in action. And so they worked 2 hours a day, another hour for themselves, and they helped us with all our greenhouses, they helped us with our utilities. We have a hydroelectric plant that produces all our electricity. We're 30 miles from the nearest power lines here. We use passive solar and, of course, a lot of firewood, and they could help with all of that. They're gone in the summertime when we do a lot of the gardening, but they get in on preparing the soil and then the harvest, which is kind of the fun part in the fall.
Jerry, if people, our time is about up, but if people wanted to learn more about your operation and just the skills you've learned with Alpine Gardening here in Montana, or about the skills you've developed in teaching young people, how could they get a hold of you?
The best way is to just write to us. We only get mail twice a week. We're so far out, but it's just Jerry and Linda Wernick, Red Meadow Drive, Polebridge, Montana, 59928. And we have a gal that delivers mail. Our mailbox is about a mile from our house, but we get it.
All right.
This is Tamarack Springs Gardens again, Jerry and Linda Wernick, and we moved here about 35 years ago. One of the issues we had is how can we grow fruit trees in an alpine valley? We get, the coldest I've seen is 44 below zero air temperature. That's not wind chill, and it kills everything. And we always get late spring frost. So we built basically a large building, we call it our fruit barn, and we have a rolling roof. And if you look up there, you can see the roof is is movable. You can move the whole roof in 5 minutes, and it's 88 feet long, and that allows free sun to come in, but in the winter you can roll it closed. Builds up 2-3 feet of snow. It kind of gives you the cave effect, and the fruit trees get a good dormant period, but they don't freeze out.
So Jerry, this is your own design, right?
It is. I had 3 criteria. I had to have something that cost almost nothing, could hold 3 or 4 feet of snow, and I could move the whole roof in 5 minutes. And this is what we came up with, this rolling design. And it rolls downhill, which kind of coils up the metal. There's sheet metal on the back of the 2x6. Coming forward, the metal is uncoiling and almost rolls itself. So even though they weigh 400 pounds, they're easy to move. We can't grow tomatoes outside in this valley because it frosts and it's so cold they won't ripen, and they hardly even will set. So in front of our fruit trees, which are over here, we first have a whole section of raspberries. In front of that we grow lots of tomatoes, and all these tomatoes are from our own seed that we keep in the root cellar. In the wintertime we have several different varieties. These are Rutgers. We have a cherry tomato. We have a Siberian, but they're all something you can keep your own seed from.
And you've got an apricot tree you're going to show me next.
Apricot tree here in the middle. It is a Tilton apricot, super sweet, but you can't really ship that, and so I can see why they've gone to the sour apricots you buy in the store. This one, when they are ripe, they're soft and they're delicious. We had about 200 pounds this year off this one tree. We don't heat this place in the winter because we want it to have a dormant period, which means it's very easy as far as firewood. You almost need none at all, but in the early season, in March, and in the late season, we get about another month on the shoulder seasons if we can heat it. Well, we use our good firewood at the house, but stumps, brush, kind of punky wood, I can put it in here. It's got a huge door on it like this. And this whole thing weighs 900 pounds, and you can put anything you want in there, and it'll burn up all that bad wood and puts heat into this building. And the whole back wall is 8-inch thick reinforced concrete, which absorbs the heat, and you get that thermal mass effect again. In our outside garden, we can only grow things that can survive frost, pretty much. It's really an alpine area, so we call it Alpine Gardening. We can grow carrots, and of course beets, and this was all broccoli, some of it going to seed now, cabbage on the other end. A lot of onions, and we can grow potatoes. Potatoes cannot take frost, but they came from the Andes and they like cool weather. So if it's going to frost in June, July, August, when we're growing potatoes, we have a big main line goes right through here, a 2-inch water line from our gravity-fed spring, so no pumps or anything. Turn that on at night and it sprays this whole garden with 40-degree water, and that saves the potatoes. Other things that doesn't do so well for, like tomatoes, squash, beans, they don't like that. In our other 2 greenhouses, we used a lot of thermal mass, which is important to keep the temperature from overheating, and especially in the winter underheating. But some things really like heat. We could never grow melons in the other greenhouses. So we put up what we call a hothouse, single layer. It gets to 100 to 110 degrees in here. It only works for about 4 months, from mid-May to mid-September. It's already frosted in here this year, but we grow lots of melons in there, and some tomatoes and beans.
And then you mentioned you grow garlic and a few other things.
Along this south-facing wall, we have chives, we have garlic, we have Walker onions, asparagus, and some outside raspberries. And they do well along the wall. In the front, this whole section is strawberries.
And again, you're located right at the northern tip of Montana, is it?
Yeah, we're just 15 miles from the Canadian border, and we're in an alpine valley with Glacier National Park to our east, and the Whitefish Mountains to the west.
And what's your elevation here?
We're about 3,600, but we get kind of what you call the bathtub effect because we have high mountains on all sides. The cold air comes down at night, and we can be 80 during the day and frost that night.
Jerry, how much of your own food do you actually grow?
Well, we could live on what we're growing. We grow about 3,000 pounds of fruit and vegetables and berries and so on a year. But of course, we add to that mangoes and bananas, and always will as long as I can get them. We create all our own power with water turbines. We use small Harris Hydro Pelton turbines. Have two of them. Produce 12-volt initial power in the batteries and then inverter, and it goes with underground utilities all over the whole place. But one of our new features is this little unit here. This is called a high lifter, and it will use just pressure of water to run a piston. It's similar to a ram, but it's not a ram. You can see the little pistons working there. Pumps water 220 feet high to the top of our hill. It only uses 3 gallons a minute, and we're using a spring that has 60 feet ahead, but we end up with 220 feet, where our daughter and son-in-law are going to build on top of the hill, gives them gravity water again.